Hello everybody and welcome back to LRN, the home of F1 news and opinion. Today we are looking at the impending move of Colton Herta to AlphaTauri, what that means for Pierre Gasly, who he is, what people have said around the move, looking at comments from Helmut Marko Stefano Domenicali, what we expect the outcome to be from the move, and what sort of effect it could have on the grid moving forward. If you are new around here though, please make sure to hit subscribe on the bottom right hand side and to hit a like and comment on the video as we progress through. Let me know your thoughts on the move, if you think it's good for Red Bull and AlphaTauri. Should they be letting Pierre Gasly leave the team to bring in Colton Herta? Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But let's get into it then, first of all, with who is Colton Herta and why are AlphaTauri / Red Bull interested in bringing him to the team. So Colton Herta's been in IndyCar since 2019. He's the youngest ever race winner in IndyCar, so he's a really hot prospect in America, and he's currently racing for Andretti Motorsport, running 10th in the current 2022 championship. So really hot property. You might also remember him from when he did a test for McLaren. So he ran a test for McLaren at Portimao, and he did 162 laps for the team. Decent driver, really well respected. And considering the fact, I mean, the reason why the teams are interested in McLaren were linked with replacing Danny Ricciardo with Colton Herta before, obviously, they made the announcement of Oscar Piastri coming into the team. So he is well liked within the world of Formula One. But there is, of course, the big issue with coming from America and driving an IndyCar, that you do not get the same number of super license points that you do for F2, F3 and F4 and the standard F1 progression process that you get, or that has been the traditional way of moving into F1, where you move through those younger formulas in the European scene with F4, F3 and F2. So he does not have the super license points required to move into Formula One. The current expectation is that under appeal, that will be they will be given an exemption to let Colton Herta join AlphaTauri, and if that is to happen, we will find out probably this weekend at the Monza Grand Prix. So look out for that announcement, and it is a really big move. So if you're thinking about why do they want to bring him in, yes, he's a hot prospect, of course, in America. He drives for IndyCar. It is a very different formula to Formula One. It's certainly come into the forefront of people's minds more. I think more ex-F1 drivers moving over to America, doing things over there, and also because America is becoming a much bigger market for F1. It's hugely increased in terms of the interest in America for F1 since the Netflix series Drive to Survive has become a big phenomenon. So certainly something to bounce on the back of. Certainly an opportunity for whoever gets a big American driver in their team to get a lot more fans and therefore a lot more money. You think about all the merchandise sales that might come from it for Red Bull. If they bring Colton Herta into the outfit, it's not just sales for AlphaTauri merchandise, it's also Red Bull merchandise as part of the Red Bull family. It's the American sponsorships that will come over with Colton Herta, bringing potentially a huge amount of money with them to the Red Bull team. And considering now that they are, of course, running their own outfit in terms of the engine development as well as the car itself, and there's issues apparently that have been hit with the Porsche acquisition. Christian Horner refusing to talk about it recently after being publicly positive about the move in previous weeks. So definitely issues going on there. So to bring in an American driver and the additional funding that would potentially bring with all of the interest from American F1 at the moment is a massive reason why Christian Horner and the Red Bull outfit are really interested in bringing Colton Herta into the family. Now, of course, this does have repercussions for Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly really interested in the move to Alpine. An agreement is already in place for Pierre Gasly to move to the Alpine team. So they've overlooked Danny Ricciardo. They've overlooked the other options. Alpine's prime choice for that drive is Pierre Gasly, despite Ocon's attempts to get Mick Schumacher into that drive. But Pierre Gasly will only be allowed to leave if, quoting Christian Horner, an exciting driver is allowed to come in. So Christian Horner was quoted as saying, "There's a lot of moving plates at the moment, which we are following with interest. So we'll see how it pans out. As I say, there's a few moving plates." Pierre Gasly's situation is a key element. We're not going to release Pierre if we don't have something exciting to put in that car. So, as you can tell, Christian Horner deems Colton Herta an exciting prospect to put in, exciting enough to bring in and replace Pierre Gasly. Now, is he going to come in and be better than Pierre Gasly? No. I know people love to get excited about the new prospect in Formula One or in any race series. Everyone loves the new shiny toy. But the fact is that Pierre Gasly is a proven F1 commodity. The chances of him coming in and being better than Pierre Gasly at any time is probably unlikely. However, as we've said, he comes in with massive sponsorship money, potentially massive interest from the American market, huge opportunity for merchandise sales and driving additional revenue into the Red Bull team. So certainly you can see why there would be excitement from Christian Horner, even if potentially it's a downgrade from a pure driving perspective on Pierre Gasly. I think it's the right move for Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly definitely needs to get out of the Red Bull outfit, go over and start his career again in a different team where he can be the number one and drive a team forward. And hopefully Alpine do prove to have the ambition to be fighting at the front again, and maybe Pierre Gasly could drive for race wins again, well, in the future, which he hasn't really had the opportunity to do. Of course, he had the drive for Red Bull, but it didn't really work out for him. Of course, we know how badly that ended, and the car was so dominantly designed for Max Verstappen that really I don't think he ever stood a chance of succeeding in the Red Bull. But he's certainly shown in AlphaTauri just how talented he is, and I hope Alpine can give him a car to go and show what he can do. But that is to be found out in the future. First of all, we need to see if Colton Herta will be given the opportunity by the FIA to come and drive in the first place. And of course, that's down to the super license points. We have had Stefano Domenicali come out and make comments to that fact. So he came out and said the sport need to respect the rules. Of course, American drivers or other drivers are very important. If he is eligible to come in F1 because he has the points, it's fantastic news. But there is a ladder to follow. There is a protocol to respect, and that is the situation. So it's really what I believe is right to do. Now, Stefano Domenicali does not have a direct impact on the decision. So although he is basically of the opinion that if Colton Herta does not have the required points, he shouldn't be given the drive, there is a feeling that the decision will be made to allow him to join the sport. At least Helmut Marko is extremely confident that that will be the case. He has said, we looked at the regulations, we discussed it with the FIA. Because of COVID, there's a special regulation that you can take 3 years from 4. And also, if one result isn't maximum points and outside the driver's hands, they can give the points. So it's nothing unreasonable. He won 7 IndyCar races, and that's comparable to a Grand Prix. So it would be a shame if he wouldn't get a super license. So you can see what the argument is. I do think that the point system is flawed. You can look at what the points that you get from IndyCar versus an F2, F3 and F4 race. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I don't think there's enough difference between those lower formulas and IndyCar to not have a similar points standing when it comes to how they're distributed on the super license front. But we'll certainly see how that decision gets made. I do think it will happen. I think that there's a level of confidence coming out of the Red Bull team that suggests that they really do believe this is going to be given the green light. So look forward to seeing Colton Herta in Formula One from next season. If that does end up being the case, I am excited to see how he gets on. I think, of course, any driver coming into F1, AlphaTauri is the perfect place to do it, because there is no expectation of battling for race wins. Yes, of course, he does still need to put in a good performance. It's no driver's ambition to end up at AlphaTauri long term, because as we know, they're never going to challenge for titles. He will want to be in the hot seat to take probably Sergio Perez's position when Perez is eventually moved on or chooses to move on from Red Bull. We can kind of guess that he's probably not going to take the fight to Max Verstappen, so Perez may end up being in the same position where he wants to move on and move to a team where potentially he's given number one status long term. So we'll see how that plays out. But certainly, I think Colton Herta is an exciting prospect. We can see why Red Bull want to bring Colton Herta into the team. And we can see why McLaren were interested in him in the past. But the big question is, will they give him the sort of... make an exemption for him to join despite the super license regulations? If they do, we will get an announcement at Monza this weekend to confirm that he will be driving for AlphaTauri next season. Should that happen, we should have an immediate response from Alpine confirming Gasly at Alpine. So let me know what you think of that as well. Do you agree that Gasly is the perfect candidate to go into Alpine? Were you hoping that Danny Ricciardo was going to go back to the Enstone outfit and get an opportunity there? Were you hoping Mick Schumacher maybe was going to be given that driver a better team than where he is at the moment, with his future up in the air with no guarantee of a drive at Haas next season? Maybe Mick's going to have to look to the likes of Williams for a drive next season if he's to stay on the grid, or maybe like Danny Rick, Mick could find himself in a reserve role, or maybe out of F1 altogether. So that certainly is concerning. I personally would really like to see Mick Schumacher stay in the sport. But it will be another drive, another potential seat gone for drivers on the rest of the grid, or any other drivers looking for a seat in F1. But Colton Herta probably will be lucky to benefit from that situation. Does he deserve a drive more than the likes of Danny Ricciardo? Maybe, if you look at Danny Ricciardo's recent form. However, does he deserve a drive more so than a Mick Schumacher? I'd argue no. I think Mick's obviously come through F2. He's won the F2 championship. He's earned his place on the F1 grid. I don't think he's been there long enough, like a Danny Rick, where you can turn around and say he's had his opportunity. I certainly think worse drivers have had more chances than Mick Schumacher at this stage. Lance Stroll being a prime example. So I do hope that Mick Schumacher's not dropped off the F1 grid next season. But still, this is about Colton Herta. I think it's an exciting prospect for Colton to come into Formula One. I think you can see exactly why the Red Bull outfit want to bring him in, not just because he's clearly a talented driver, but because of what he would bring commercially and financially to the Red Bull team. And I think it would be the best thing for Pierre Gasly and Alpine. So I think this is a win all-round scenario for all parties involved. You can see why it is that they've managed to come to an agreement between all parties so quickly, because I just think it works for everybody. I think the losers are, of course, IndyCar. They're losing a fantastic driver from their outfit, but we don't care about them. We care about F1, and I think for F1, for all parties involved here, it is the best thing that's going to happen. So I hope it comes out. I hope at Monza this weekend we get the confirmation that the moves are all going ahead, and we'll find out about that in a few days' time. And of course, very much looking forward to Monza this weekend. Just in general, we do love going back to Monza. The fans there are just incredible. And I hope that we could see maybe a resurgent Ferrari and give those Tifosi fans something to shout about. But let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. Let me know what you think of the move. Do you think this is the best for all parties like I do? Do you have a different opinion? Do you think someone else should be going into Alpine? Do you think maybe Red Bull should be looking to follow the regulations, not looking to swerve them, using these sort of COVID regulations that maybe shouldn't apply now to get a super license for Colton Herta, that maybe other drivers in F2, reserve drivers, other F1 drivers maybe deserve that seat ahead of him? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Otherwise, just going to thank you so much for watching today, guys. I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.